Howdy go and welcome to Rauta's Death Metal Reviews. This time we have a real veteran of the genre in play, however not maybe the biggest band out there, but definitely deserving more attention comes Hate. This is a band from Poland with a 12th album called Rugia. Now, Hate is one of those hard-working veterans who have been around for quite some time, that is 30 years by now, and haven't really been changing their style too much. What makes this more interesting that, 30 years being in metal business or any kind of band usually means that as the people get older, they kind of start to wear down and, the songwriting isn't exactly what it used to be. We have a lot of that in especially thrash metal territory, but even heavy metal and all that stuff. Now, it should be more challenging to create interesting extreme metal because, extreme metal takes toll, I could guess, a little bit more than, playing kind of easygoing and relaxed heavy metal. That is, the tempo is more intense, and once you get older, you kind of maybe start losing the grasp when it comes to more extreme ideas. I'm only guessing, I can't really talk on my behalf. My point here is, a lot of bands, as they get older, they kind of start creating something, more approachable, something more accessible. And while on it, they kind of start, changing their style, and things that used to be so extreme are not that extreme anymore. There are lots of bands that have been going on with that style. Then again, we have bands like Cannibal Corpse or Hate, which are quite the contrary. I mean, as these bands get older, they kind of screw even tighter. That is, they become even more intense and all that stuff. I don't know how it is exactly possible, but I'm really happy that we get these kind of bands. Now, like I said, sorry, this band has been here for 30 years, or even more if you count those early parts, with the different name and all. And coming from country from Poland, it's not actually very easy to be extreme metal band. I mean, bands like Behemoth have proven time and time again that a country which has kind of old-fashioned and conservative ways of dealing with music and culture, which is exactly quite the opposite. It's not easy to be a band operating along those lines, that is challenging things like Christianity, talking about satanic ideas, and the drill. But we're not here to drill deep into the very concept of the band. We're here to talk about the 12th album. Before that, let's take a quick look on Metal Archive site for this band. As you can see, a lot of full-length albums, but also compilations and live albums and all that stuff. So there's a lot of things going on, but nothing basically unnecessary. There is nothing unneeded, so to speak. I mean, there are lots of bands who release way more live albums than the actual studio albums, and unfortunately for them, that is not going so well in terms of creating new interesting music. Hate is quite a different breed, and lucky for us, the audience, that is doing quite nicely exactly that. Now, the previous album was actually very, very intense, but not exactly surprising album coming from this kind of speedy, blackened death metal. And why I'm using quotation marks is that sometimes people call this kind of a blackened death metal for the reasons that the topics are quite, dark and related to black metal. But let's be honest about it, this is basically just modern death metal without any kind of extra labeling. So whatever blackened means to some people, this doesn't actually mean black death in this kind of a band or this album. It means that while the tone is very dark and kind of blackened in the sense you could say these are flirting with the ideas like Behemoth from Poland did when they were focusing on death metal, this is still death metal as it goes, and that is a good thing. This is not just combining weird hybrid things when it comes to writing material, but it's just driving like a tank on, I don't know, speed or something. The tempo on this album is very much the dominating factor here. That and these kind of modern takes of death metal. One could say there is definitely some kind of a Morbid Angel DNA, but then again, Hate doesn't really sound like Morbid Angel. But there are a little bit of similarities. More so, I would say this is closer to style, for example, like Vader, also from Poland, but less trashier. I mean, Vader definitely has those albums which are leaning more to trashier parts, where Hades maybe a little bit leaning on the blackened sides, but not, once again, exactly black metal. It's modern death metal with high tempo, very intense playing, and, those hateful vocals. I mean, what else when your band is called Hate? And of course, because, coming from a big label, Metal Blade, and also with this kind of experience for 30 years in Tensam, everything in terms of production is very, very solid. One could even make the claim that it's kind of a boring because, it's so good and so powerful, but there is not this kind of a dynamics, maybe because some bands which maybe lack the budget or whatever might have. Then again, this is also the kind of a fast tempo death metal that really can't go for, more dirty or muddled sound, because if it did that, well, it wouldn't sound as powerful. You kind of have to choose which way to go. And if you want to go with the fast tempo parts and you want to make sure that all instruments, whether they are guitars or drums and more vocals, bass, whatever, I mean, you have to have them so that they play nice and crisp. Did I say nice? Well, that's kind of a weird word to describe Hate's music, because that's exactly not nice thing. Now, compared to even more brutal bands operating in the field of death metal, one could say Hate is not the most extreme in that sense. But then again, slam and brutal death metal is a little bit different what Hate is doing. Actually, it's kind of funny that coming on the same date, 15th of October 2021, and also from the same label, Metal Records, comes also Aeon, which I hear, by the way, have a review next day. They're really like each other. They are almost like siblings. They have their differences, but both are very much on the modern, intense ways of doing death metal. And that's, by the way, really, really nice. Now, I'm really happy that Hate hasn't been, renewed their style too much. It's basically for fans who like the previous style, and that's it. It doesn't go as grind as, say, Aborted, but there's a lot of same sense, like being very, very polished and very strong. And once again, I like to repeat this word, I know, intense all the way through. There are no weak tracks, there are no weak moments, but let's be honest about it, this could be a little bit more surprising when it comes to details. That is not a big flaw. Maybe it's not a flaw at all. It depends, once again, from which angle you're coming from. If you like your Hate being your 30 minutes and then some dose to deliver you this fast tempo and modern death metal, what else you really need? I think this is a good album. Not the best of the year, but definitely one of the better ones to come out towards the end of the year. So strong album by a strong band that delivers solid blows year after year. So for your dose of intense death metal, Hate is your band to go. Check it out, and also keep your eyes peeled for that Aeon one reviewed later on. Take care, and see you soon with October 15th coming this way. Well, the band, the album, and all that stuff.